everyone does what they do musically, and like
Yeah.
there's a period, at least for me when I was younger, where I felt like if you're not good at everything, then you suck and all this stuff. And but at the end of the day, like as I'm getting older, you realize you do what you do. You love the music you love. You have the style that you have.
Right.
But back then, I didn't. I was a lot younger, and after the Macy thing ended, um, it was a weird situation because uh, I didn't have to work for a while. I just bought a house, and everything was cool on that front. But all of a sudden, I was terrified to work with anybody because everywhere I
Mm.
went for a while, I was like, "That's Jeremy. He's dope keyboard player from Macy Gray." And
Yeah.
but people were saying that who hadn't heard me play. So like
Yeah.
for a while, I felt like I had this reputation as like this amazing keyboard player, but in reality, nothing had really changed. I do what I do. Like I can't read music. There's a lot of stuff. I'm not like a jazz ripper. I can't. I just do the
Yeah.
thing I do. So like I went through this
Right.
period where I was just really in my head and I was really terrified to do anything.
Mm.
I would flake on sessions and stuff like that. Just it was a weird few years of that. I know it's kind of deep, but it might be worth mentioning
No,
just because we're all
absolutely.
musicians and everyone's in their head and it's a whole crazy thing. Um, but during that time I still was working with a lot of singer songwriters. I was still producing music. I still got some cuts on people's albums and stuff like that. And I was basically trying to move into production and wasn't going to tour anymore. And
Mm.
let's see. Although, but there were two. You and I did some stuff, right? Didn't I go out
Yep.
with you a few times on stuff? And there
Yep.
was the Breakestra. I did a run with the
Yep.
Breakestra, like we all did, which is
Yep.
awesome. It's Hey man,
Yes,
it's
sir.
school. It was great. And
Absolutely.
the Fitz thing, what year was that? Oh eight, I
I
think.
can look. I can look right
Yeah,
here.
there were like
Okay.
several years of bouncing around where I didn't have a goal in mind. I was just working with people, occasionally going on a little mini tour, but not really doing that much and not sure what I wanted to do. And I remember I was on a mini van tour with this singer songwriter named Skylar Fisk, who's dope. And she and I were
Mm.
working together and writing songs and stuff. But it was definitely like a little acoustic thing. And I got a phone call from our, Stuart Cole about
Yeah.
being in the house band at this club Bardot, which was kind of happening at the time. And
Yeah.
for some reason, I remember getting that call and thinking, I don't know why, but I feel like this is a really important call. And
Right.
sure enough, I ended up doing the house band thing there. It was really fun. We had a great time. Prince sat in with us, which was
Oh wow.
crazy.
Right.
But then that's where I met John Wicks, who
Mm.
uh, somewhere in there said, "Hey, I'm working with this guy Fitz, and he's putting together a band, and do you want to check it out?" And I said, "Yeah." But the thing was, I wasn't planning on ever going on tour again. I was actually planning on getting into scoring, and Fitz at the time had a commercial music company. So I
Right.
thought, all right, I'll do a couple gigs with this Fitz guy. The music, I will say that when I heard the music, it was actually really dope. There were like two songs or three songs that existed at the time,
Mm.
and they were actually pretty haunting and cool. And I remember thinking like, who is this dude? It was kind of mysterious and cool. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'll do a couple gigs just so I can get in, so maybe I can get in on the commercial music thing. But what I
Right.
didn't know at the time was he was actually ending that business because he wanted to really start a band and make a true go for it doing that.
Right.
And so anyway, it was funny because it's the old story. We got together for it's true. We got like one rehearsal and then we started playing the Hotel Cafe and some other places.
Yeah.
But I will say that from the first show, uh, the response from the audience was really different than I had seen in a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, the last time I had felt a response like that where it made me think twice was when I first played with Macy. So I remember
Yeah.
like my ears pricked up and I was like, all right, this is something different. And, it became like, all right, can you do 2 weeks in a van? I was like, all right, I'll do 2 weeks in a van. Fine.
Yeah.
And then it was like, hey, can you guys do a month? Blah, blah, blah. And so next thing I knew, I was, just we were a band. I was in the band. Joe was there fairly early on. We did
Yeah.
have another guy at first, a good friend of ours, Ethan, but he took
Yep.
another gig and Joe came in and, he's been the guy forever. And
Yeah.
it
Two
was the thing.
amazing bass players, by the way, both of
What's
you
that?
guys. I said I've played with Ethan a bunch and I've played with Joe a bunch, and
Yeah.
Fitz in the Tantrums has never had a bad bass player in the band. That's for sure.
Yes, that is 100% true. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, so then once the Fitz thing started, it started really getting busy and I pretty much that was it. We were just on a roller coaster ride and went from van tours to we finally got a Sprinter van. It was like super exciting because we could like put our heads back and not
Right.
like, how it is in a van where I don't know why they don't make headrests in vans. And
Yeah. Right.
so that was amazing to have a headrest, and then just went on and became the Fits and the Tantrums thing.
The things we look forward to. If there was only a headrest in my van, then
If I just had a headrest, it's true.
So I can
So
get some rest on these long road trips. Oh man,
yeah,
yeah. I love what you were talking about earlier, just about how after Macy, you were just kind of feeling like people were coming at you with like Jeremy's. He's this amazing keyboard player, which you are, but the reality of like I just kind of do what I do, and I think not enough people talk about that. Like, everybody just has their specialties. And as much as you want to be well rounded and kind of think you can play all different kinds of styles, we all have our taste and we feel
yeah,
good when we're playing in our zones.
yeah,
And I think the one thing a lot of people don't talk about is just the sensitivity of musicians. It's just naturally inherent in, man, 90% of the musicians I know. We don't get into this because we're just like, fuck everybody. We're into it because we're sensitive to emotion and feelings, and everybody sometimes feels like I'm not good enough, and I'm not as good as that guy. And I wish you guys would speak on that just a little bit about how just finding your strengths and just kind of trusting yourself and that people are going to love you for the things that you do, and not expecting to be good at every single style.
I mean, I think I realize in retrospect how important that is because I think when you're a younger musician, I mean, it's important to shed, get your chops up,
Yeah.
do as much as you can. I mean, you never want to stop learning or anything like that. But
Right.
yeah, I think looking back on it now, in my opinion, it's more important to have your style than it is to be able to
Right.
play every style.